Your banking app made a sound the last time your money moved. Maybe a little chime, maybe a burst of color on the screen. That sound wasn't designed by an accountant. It was designed by the same kind of people who designed slot machines. I opened 5 different banking apps this week, just to check, and 4 of them did some version of the exact same thing. A little animation when money moves, a progress bar that fills in slightly before it should, a small burst of color when a roundup hits. None of that used to exist in banking. It exists now because somewhere a design team borrowed it from somewhere else, and the deeper I looked, the more the patterns stopped feeling like coincidence. Not familiar like other finance apps, familiar like a casino floor. Same rhythm, same feedback, same quiet pull to check one more time. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's documented design language, and once you know what to look for, you'll see it in your own app in about 10 seconds.
Chapter 1. The App That Stopped Feeling Like a Ledger.
There's a specific moment worth noticing. The first time a banking app made you feel something other than boredom. Banking used to be one of the most boring categories of software that existed. A list of numbers, a balance, a transaction history. Nobody opened their bank app for fun. Somewhere in the last several years, that changed. Balances now animate upward instead of just appearing. Roundups celebrate with a little burst of motion. Savings goals show a progress ring that fills in like a level bar. Spending gets sorted into colorful categories with icons, almost like a game inventory. None of this changes what the app actually does. It still just moves and tracks money. What changed is how it feels to open it.
That shift wasn't random, and it wasn't cheap to build. Motion design, sound design, and reward timing are expensive to get right. Expensive enough that a bank only invests in them if the goal is something more specific than convenience.
A ledger doesn't need to feel good to use. Somebody decided this one should. Chapter 2. The Reward That Shows Up When You Don't Expect It.
So once the boredom is gone, the next thing worth looking at is exactly when these apps decide to reward you.
Slot machines run on something called a variable ratio reward schedule. The payout doesn't come on a fixed timer. It comes at unpredictable intervals, which is precisely what keeps a person pulling the lever instead of walking away. A lot of banking apps run reward moments the same way. Roundups from card purchases don't celebrate every single time, or on a fixed schedule you could predict. Cashback surprises, bonus interest nudges, you saved more than usual this week messages. They land at intervals that feel random, which is the entire point. A reward you can predict eventually stops pulling at you. A reward that might show up anytime you check keeps you checking. Banking apps that use this pattern aren't doing it by accident. The same math that keeps someone at a slot machine is the math behind when a banking app decides to surprise you with good news. The reward isn't there to inform you. It's there to make you look again tomorrow.
Chapter 3. The Streak You Didn't Ask For.
And once checking becomes a habit, some apps go one step further and start keeping score.
Saving streaks, budget streaks. You stayed under budget for 6 weeks in a row banners. These borrow directly from the same mechanic that made language learning apps famous for guilt. A streak works because breaking it feels like a loss, not because keeping it feels like a win. Once someone has 4 or 5 weeks stacked up, the fear of losing that number becomes a stronger motivator than the actual financial goal underneath it. This shows up quietly. A small flame icon next to a savings goal. A counter that says how many weeks in a row a budget target got hit. None of this exists to help someone save more effectively. A plain graph would do that job just as well. The streak exists because loss aversion is a stronger lever than progress. And once a number is climbing, most people will do a lot to avoid watching it reset to 0. The goals stop being the money.
The goal became not breaking the streak.
Chapter 4. The Sound and Color of Winning. There's also a sensory layer to this that's easy to miss because it happens in under a second. Casinos are famous for pairing wins with specific sounds and colors. A chime, a flash of gold, a satisfying little visual pop, engineered to make a small win feel bigger than it actually is. A handful of banking apps now do a version of this. A soft chime when a savings goal ticks up, a green burst of color when a bill gets paid on time, a satisfying little animation when a roundup lands in the savings pot. None of these moments involve more money than a plain notification would represent. They just feel like more, because sound and color are doing work that a number alone never could.
This kind of feedback is called a variable reinforcement cue in behavioral design circles, and it's studied for the exact reason it shows up here. It makes a neutral event feel like a reward, which makes a person want to trigger it again.
Nothing about the money changed. The feeling around it did.
Kind of curious about this one. Next time you open your banking app, notice the first animation or sound that plays. What is it? And does it happen every time or only sometimes? If you want, drop it in the comments. I'd like to see how many apps are running the exact same pattern.
Chapter 5. How close you are is the point. There's a specific design choice that shows up right around budgets and spending limits, and it's not what most people assume it's doing.
A lot of budgeting features show a bar filling up toward a limit. 70% of the grocery budget used, 85% of the entertainment budget gone. This looks like a warning. In practice, showing someone how close they are to a limit tends to increase how often they check the app, not how much they hold back on spending. This is the same near-miss effect studied in gambling research, where almost winning keeps a person more engaged than either a clear win or a clear loss would. A bar sitting at 85% creates tension. Tension makes people check again later to see where it landed. Whether it actually changes what gets bought is a separate question entirely, and it's one the bar itself was never really designed to answer. The bar doesn't tell you to stop. It tells you to come back and look.
Chapter 6. This has a name in the research.
None of this is a guess about design intentions. It's been studied directly under its own name. Researchers studying gambling machine design have documented exactly how variable rewards, near misses, and sensory feedback loops keep a person engaged longer than a fixed, predictable system ever could. That same body of research gets referenced directly inside product design and behavioral economics circles when building apps meant to hold attention, finance apps included. The mechanics aren't hidden secrets. They're published, studied, and taught, which is part of why they show up so consistently across otherwise unrelated products. Seeing the pattern named in research changes how it lands. This isn't one bank's app happening to feel slightly addictive by coincidence. It's a documented design language being applied to a category of software that used to be the most boring thing on a phone. This isn't a feeling you're imagining. It's a technique with a name and a research history.
Chapter 7. Spending is one tap. Saving rarely is.
There's one more piece worth noticing, and it's less about rewards and more about what gets made easy. Buying something inside most banking apps takes almost no steps. Tap to pay, confirm, done. Moving money into a locked savings account, canceling a subscription, or withdrawing from an investment often takes more steps, more confirmation screens, sometimes a cooling-off period. Casinos run on the same asymmetry. It's effortless to keep playing and comparatively harder to cash out and walk away. The friction isn't distributed evenly. It's placed specifically on the actions that would end the session.
A banking app doesn't need 5 confirmation screens to protect someone from a poor decision. It needs them exactly where slowing someone down works against continued spending. And conveniently, that's rarely where those screens actually show up.
The friction was never about safety. It was about which action the app wants you to take.
Chapter 8. None of this makes you careless with money.
None of what's been covered here means anyone using these apps is doing something wrong.
Every piece of this runs quietly, underneath an interface that looks helpful and modern. Rewards land on an unpredictable schedule. Streaks turn saving into a number that's painful to lose instead of a goal that's satisfying to reach. Sound and color turn neutral events into small wins. Budget bars create tension instead of restraint. Friction gets placed specifically where it discourages stopping, not where it discourages spending. None of it is a personal failure to resist. It's a documented design language, built by people whose job is engagement, applied to money instead of games. Recognizing the pattern doesn't undo the design. It just means the next time an app celebrates a little too enthusiastically over a roundup, there's a reason for that feeling, and it isn't really about the money at all.
The app was built to feel like a win. That part was never an accident.
If this changed how you look at your own banking app next time you open it, a like helps this reach more people who'd probably notice the same thing once it's pointed out. And if you want more of this kind of breakdown, subscribing means you won't miss the next one.
Now you know why your banking app feels a little more like a game than it used to. The next thing worth understanding is why the same design shows up in shopping apps right down to the checkout screen. So watch this video next to see where else this pattern is hiding. I'll put the video up on the screen for you to watch next.